Hey reader folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So it's the end of 2025 and in this video I'm going to go through all the books that I've read in the year. So stepping into the new year, I knew that I wouldn't have that much time reading with all the new responsibilities and life changes that I'm going through. But I was always determined on one thing, and that's that I do not want to stop doing the things that I love after I become a mom. And to stay true to my word, I set a reading target of 25 books to read in 2025. So, how many books did I actually end up reading? 26! Yeah, I'm so proud of myself for following through, and it was a fun year of reading. And I've read a variety of books from thrillers, classics, biographies. Some of them I loved, some of them not so much, but we'll get right into them all. So I actually always start the year with a Harry Potter book. I've reread the series so many times, but I always feel magical no matter how many times I've read it. So this year I picked up Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which is the sixth book in the series. So my favorite part of this book is the pensive stories that Dumbledore shows Harry, all related to Tom Riddle. It's a shame that these stories are not there in the movie because it actually makes you understand and can I dare say appreciate the Horcruxes better. So Draco's character arc is also beautiful in this book, and so it's a fun book, sad ending, and what more can I say? It's Harry Potter. It's awesome. Next up, I picked a classic, Anna Karenina. So this book put me in the worst reading slump that I've had in the past 6 years. The female protagonist is so destructive, it made my head hurt. So she took insecurity to a whole new level, and there were times where I wanted to scream at her to not bring problems to herself. I think we all know such people in our lives, don't we? But yeah, it's okay, I guess. I really liked Levin and Kitty's storyline though, so it's it's a decent read, I guess. The next up is Sunrise on the Reaping. It was my most anticipated read of the year. I'm a huge Hunger Games fan, and this book did not disappoint. So I actually feel so much. I mean, I'm so much more empathetic towards Haymitch's character in the original trilogy now, and there are so many side characters who make appearances that I mean, who were in the original trilogy, and their involvement in the rebellion makes so much more sense. I was kind of skeptical of the fact that Hamish never mentioned any of this to Katniss in the original books, but the epilogue in Sunrise of the Reaping gives a tiny justification for that. It's a very sad book, also. I mean, what would you expect? And even though you know the outcome of the book, you know who's gonna win the second quarter quell, but it kept me hooked throughout and I absolutely love it. 10 on 10 would recommend for Hunger Games fan, but make sure you read the original trilogy and the Ballad of Songbirds and Snake, which is another prequel first. Next up is We'll Prescribe You a Cat. I love the slow vibe of Japanese literature, and if you're looking for some peace and calm, then you should definitely pick up books like these. So this book is a collection of short stories and all of them involves cats. It's a good enough reason for me to pick up this book. And next up, we have Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. So I actually own all of Dan Brown's works, but Angels and Demons is the only one I've read so far. I'm gonna change that the next year. But this is a religious conspiracy thriller, and it's gruesome, it's suspenseful, so it's very easy to skim through it despite it being a relatively big book. Next up, I went through a whole month of reading Frida McFadden books because they were so good. So I read The Locked Door, which I really enjoyed the journey, but I didn't like the ending that much. It was a little bit Bollywoody for me, but it was still a decent read. Then I had read The Housemaid. The journey was okay. It was still like super suspenseful. But I really loved the ending, and I think I should read the Housemaid Secret, which is kind of a sequel to this. So a sequel or prequel, I'm not sure. So I also read The Inmate. Um, So this is probably my least favorite of the four, mainly because I was so mad at the protagonist for falling into traps despite all the red flags laid out for her. So yeah, this is my least favorite of the four. And then I read Never Lie, which is my absolute favorite. So the genius of the writing is that the story goes through two storylines, one which is in the past and one which is in the present, and the two storylines merge beautifully. So I literally flew by this book. Every chapter ends in a cliffhanger, so it's very easy. And if you are getting into reading, I would definitely recommend this one. So next up, I read a couple of classics. First up, 1984 by George Orwell. So this is just a dystopian masterpiece. So imagine living in a world where you can't even think what you want to. Doing what you want to is a very far-fetched dream. So we're talking about a situation where even thoughts can be a crime. So I loved reading this book and all the shivers it gives me. It like kind of spooked me up a bit, not gonna lie. And I also read Good Wives, which is the sequel to Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I adore the March sisters, and this book talks about their married lives. And as adorable as that sounds, there's also quite a bit heartbreaking bits in it. But I do love how the feeling of loss and love is put into words. Absolutely lovely read. One of the most beautiful reads of the year is Why Not by Ankita Rajendran. So, this may look like a travel book, but it's actually so inspiring. You can see that I annotated it quite a bit. So, it's not just an ordinary travel book, it's about the stories, the culture, the people of all the countries, and the nature of all the countries that she visited. And some stories really do stick with you. There's this particular story about a woman and her daughter in Afghanistan that I still think about now and then. So even if you're big on travel, I'd still suggest you to pick up this book. We could all use a little bit of inspiration in our lives. Next up, I read Wicked. So I realized that I actually was gifted and I bought myself quite a few special editions. I'm really grateful for that. I mean, look at how pretty this book is. It's all shiny. Yeah. So I picked up this book because I watched the first movie and I couldn't wait for the second movie to come out. But I was so wrong because the book story and the movie story are way off. I guess the movie and the Broadway musical are just loosely based off this book. So it's nowhere, it's very, very, very far related. And I did not enjoy the book, to be honest, maybe because I really love the movies. So yeah, the movie is better than the book. I think you would rarely see a reader say that. And then next up, I read Six of Crows. So I actually read the Shadow and Bone trilogy back in 2024 and I kind of enjoyed it. So I did pick up Six of Crows. So you don't need to read the original trilogy. This is a standalone story. It's just in the same universe, which is called the Grishaverse. And I absolutely love all the characters, the plot, the thrill, the anticipation, and this book ends in a cliffhanger. And I'm really surprised I didn't pick up the sequel, Crooked Kingdom, yet, but I will in 2026. And then I read Carrie by Stephen King, another special edition. It's a really good book. It's quite short, but it is very intense. So it's a modern classic for a reason. I think 100% would recommend. Next up, I read Expecting Better by Emily Oster. I don't have the physical copy, but I'll just pop it up on the screen. So I actually read this when I was not pregnant. When I was pregnant last year, I read Crib Sheet by Emily Oster, which is a guide for new parents from newborn age onwards. So, and I found that very helpful. And I wanted to recommend this book, but before recommending, I wanted to read it for myself because sometimes pregnancy books can be very overwhelming, especially for first time moms. So, but this book is, on the contrary, is actually very helpful. It kind of states facts backed up with stats. And my favorite part is there's no hard and fast rule. It just states the facts and it's left to you to decide what you want to do in your pregnancy. So, all the pregnant moms out there, if you are worried and if you're kind of clueless, I think this is one book that you can go through. Next up, I went through an Agatha Christie phase. So, I read 5 of her books, all of them are Hercule Poirot stories. So I read Death in the Clouds, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, The Mystery Affair at Styles, After the Funeral, and Cat Among Pigeons. All of them are murder mysteries, all of them are pretty suspenseful, but one book that really stood out for me was Cat Among Pigeons, which is actually based in a girls' boarding school and there are multiple murders going on. So, yeah, this is one of my favorite stories of hers. Next up, I read Butter, which is a super hyped book, and I really thought I'd enjoy it, but I did not. So the story is about a journalist who's interviewing a serial killer who lured her victims through delicious gourmet meals. And what I thought would be a murder mystery where the interviewer kind of puts the pieces together and cracks the mystery, I was so wrong. It's completely different. It's just a story about food and hunger and it's also like opposing views of feminism and while the book describes the food, textures, sensations, everything beautifully, that's about it for the book. Would not recommend. I also read Blue Sisters by Coco Wells, which I absolutely enjoyed. One of my favorite reads of the year. And I annotated it so much. Like in the first page itself, I was hooked. Like, just read this quote. Who can explain the urge to take a relationship as primal and complex as a sibling and reduce it to something as replaceable and banal as a friend? I was hooked. That's literally the first line, and I knew that I was going to enjoy this book so much. So, the story is about three sisters who reconnect on the death anniversary of their fourth sister. Each sister is going through their own things, but they kind of come together. It's messy, it's chaotic, but it's also beautifully raw. It's like the conversation is happening right in front of you, and it describes the sister bond like perfectly. It's perfect. So 100% would recommend. It is an adult book though, so disclaimer. Next up, I read Kafka on the Shore by Murakami. This is actually my first Murakami read, and it's a totally different experience. I thoroughly enjoyed it though. So, the book is following two storylines, one of Kafka, who's a teenage boy, and Nakata, who's a man who can talk to cats. So, yes, there you should leave logic out the door before you step into this book. I was waiting for these two storylines to merge throughout the book, and the book also kind of messes up your mind. It was a little creepy at a few points for my taste, but the experience is different. I think you just have to read it to understand because it can't be put into words. Next up, I read Long Walk to Freedom, which is Nelson Mandela's biography, and it's everything you'd expect it to be. It covers his childhood, his youth, his career, and his struggle against apartheid. What was unexpected is I built huge respect for his wife because she's the unsung hero through it all. The sacrifices that she had to make for her family, for the country, it's unimaginable. Okay, next up is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And I haven't read sci-fi in a long time, and this book got me so excited. So there's a lot of physics involved, but it's kind of explained well for the common reader, and it also gets you excited on all the science stuff. So it's an extraterrestrial space adventure, what's not to love, full of suspense and full of science. And Rocky is my favorite character, absolutely. And the last book which I read in this year is Beautiful World, Where Are You? I actually picked it up on one of my vacations and I stopped. I almost DNF'd it, but I kind of sort of pulled through. So the story is about four characters and it's basically about nothing really. A lot of chapters are emails between two characters which are excruciatingly long, and the remaining are just following the story of the characters. And what really bugged me out is that the author uses no quotation marks whatsoever for dialogues, which is a huge put off for me. For some reason I couldn't read through it, and if it's the same writing style, then I think Sally Rooney is not for me at all. I wouldn't recommend this. So that's a wrap on all the books I read in 2025. So if I had to pick my top five, excluding Harry Potter, of course, it would be We'll Prescribe You a Cat. Absolutely fun, calm read. Sunrise on the Reaping, no surprises there. Never Lie by Frida McFadden, one of my favorite thrillers that I've read in a long time. Blue Sisters by Coco Mellis, I'm absolutely reading more of her works for sure. And Project Hail Mary, I think it's a sign that I should get back to sci-fi. So it's been a great year and I'm looking forward to 2026. So I've got a huge pile of physical TBR and I need to get the number down as much as I can. So my goal for 2026 is 35 books, which is not going to be easy at all, but it will also force me to read and stop wasting time on scrolling and just other useless activities. So, what's your reading goal for 2026 and what books are you most excited about in the coming year? And are there any books that I showed in this video that you loved? I would love to talk more about it, so leave a comment down below. So that's it for this video, guys. Wish you all a happy new year and stay tuned for more bookish content because we've got a lot of videos coming up in 2026. See ya.